Welcome to Dear Tate, You Got This, the show where transformation meets practical action. Join us each week as we dive into powerful tools and insights for leveling up your life. If you're ready to embrace change and explore the many sides of growth, you're in the right place. Our signature Trinity segment keeps gratitude, achievements, and dreams front and center, while every episode ends with a weekly challenge to spark real-life transformation. Tune in, take action, and get inspired to live your best life. Discover Chakra Wonders, where spiritual growth meets everyday essentials. From beautifully crafted paintings to cozy socks, inspiring journals, mugs, and book bags, Chakra Wonders brings you art and items designed to support your spiritual journey. With a mission to create a resort-style sanctuary for holistic healing, Chakra Wonders aims to elevate the world's consciousness, one mindful step at a time. Every product reflects a deeper intention to help you form an I am relationship, fostering self-love that radiates outward to others. For our podcast listeners, enjoy 15% off your purchase with code DEARTAY. Visit chakrawonders.com and take the next step in your spiritual journey with Chakra Wonders. Welcome back to Dear Tate, You Got This. I hope that you guys enjoyed the self-care series. I absolutely enjoyed it myself. And am happy to say that we will be continuing on with some of those self-care properties as we go forward within our next weeks of the podcast, which basically just means that I want you guys to keep up with your self-care routine. Even if you didn't have one before and you're just now starting one with us, that is okay. Just like the weeks previous, I'm going to go over a topic. We're going to talk about a topic, and then I am going to give you guys some self-care homework because I think it's very important for us to continue on giving ourselves self-care and not just after something has happened or life has happened or something like that. I feel like it's very much should be at the forefront of your mind and should very much be at the forefront of your day or of your week. And I think that by giving you guys homework each week, it'll help you guys to really start noticing changes within yourself. It'll start giving you more ideas on different self-care things that you would like to do. And I just think that, self-care is nice. Why have it as an afterthought when you could have it as a forethought? And honestly, that be able to keep you in a space that is peaceful and mindful of yourself. So this week's podcast is actually going to be brought forward by a quote that I had found. And a lot of times I actually have like a whole little notebook of like quotes that I have. And it's because sometimes a lot of things just really speak to me, no matter what's going on in life. And I think that one of the things over the last year and a half or so is that I've been collecting quotes because honestly, for no reason other than like they make me feel good. They make me think. Yes. And then they make me feel like I'm on the right path every time I read them. And they're always something different. And I think this one by Dipin Parmar is a really great example of what healing and what your journey looks like as you are healing. So the quote says, "The magic you are looking for is in the work you are avoiding." And I will say that this is a quote that I can definitely say, had I read this a couple of years ago, I'd have just been like, whatever. But now that I have gone through a year where I was able to really focus on myself, I was able to be consistent in my healing and in what I was doing overall, this quote really spoke to me in the sense that there were things that I know that I was avoiding in the previous years that I did not give myself time to actually do. Whether it was, not drinking anymore, whether it was not putting myself in situations that did not serve me, whether it was, finding a new place to work, anything like that. I really wasn't putting forth that effort or putting forth that work because it was exactly that. It was work. And I think that oftentimes when we're looking at our self-healing journey and we're looking at our self-care and we're looking at how we're going to better ourselves, we see it as work. And I will say that after a year and a half of like not drinking and seeing all of the changes that have come to hand, I think that I see work a little bit differently in the sense that, yes, you are going to have to wake up every day and make a conscious decision to change. However, the one thing that I kept looking at was what is it going to change? Like, how is this going to make me feel better? How am I going to be closer to the happiness that I seek? And I think that oftentimes when we're looking at, oh, this is just work, we really decide to kind of put that on the back burner because of whatever reasons that we have. And as I write my book, I realize that a lot of those reasons have to do with us changing. Things aren't going to be the same. The same people that were in my life before aren't going to be there, and a long list of other things that have to do with putting in work and becoming a better self. And I think that this really tells us what it is that we need to do and what we should be doing, and really understanding that a lot of the things that we're doing and a lot of the change that we want, we're avoiding because we want things to stay the same. And as you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So, one of the things that I will say is that you will want to take risks. You have to take risks in your life in order to see a change. I will say that before 2023, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do, whether it was, building my business, whether it was finding a new job, anything like that. I wanted to do these things, but I realized at the time that this was happening, like I didn't really want to put in the work. I was still kind of in fight mode when it came to my life because of everything that trickled down from, my ex-husband leaving to having to take care of my home by myself to, making sure that things were good. And then feeling like because I was the only person doing this or I didn't have any backup or anything like that, I felt like there was nothing more that I could do. And being in a situation where I knew that no matter what decision I made, it was all going to be on my shoulders. I think that a lot of times we think that, because of that, the weight is so heavy. And I will have to say that before that, I was go, go, go all the time. I can't tell you how many times during that time I experienced burnout because of that. And once 2023 hit, there were a lot of things that were going through my mind as 2023 was rolling in. And really, I had been having issues in my relationship at the time. And I had been having, very like I previously within like the beginning of 2022, I had been looking for a different job, but nothing came of it from the interviews that I went on. So I was just like, okay, well, this is a loss. And by the time the end of 2022 came, I felt very defeated. I felt like there was nothing else that I could do in order to get me back where I was before, and also to get me back into a state of calm, into a state of peace. So one of the things that I had did was I stopped drinking. And one of the other things that I decided to do was actually start waking up early. And waking up early was definitely a risk because I didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing during those morning hours that I was awake, but I knew that they needed to happen. So when it came down to it, in my situation, I felt like I took big risks. Like not drinking was a big risk. And I say that because my friend group, a lot of people in my friend group were still drinking. And it was interesting because for myself personally, I had people ask me like, well, how are you going to stop doing that when your friends are still doing it? Are you still going to go out? Like things like that. And I just had told them like, yeah, like at the end of the day, it's my decision. It's my consistency in what I want to do with my life that's going to keep me going forward. And just because I'm going out with people who are drinking doesn't mean that I have to have a drink. I can sit back, I can grab a club soda, which is normally what I did, and I can still have fun while I'm out there. And I think that there were a lot of people who were like, well, I wouldn't be able to do that, and that's not something I could do. And I really had to maintain this is for me, this is not for everyone else. Like this is my journey. I'm not asking anybody else to go on this journey with me. I am here to do this for me because I knew the spot that I was in and I knew what kind of growth I wanted to see. And at the end of the day, when it came down to it, like a lot of those things for me paid off. I was able to grow my TikTok channel. I was able to, stop drinking. And not only did I feel better, but I also found that there were certain things in my life that I really didn't need or didn't want. That was whether it be people in my circle, whether it be the job that I was at, whether it's the stressors. I just didn't want that anymore. And oftentimes it really does just take risk to get to that point. I can definitely say, and I know that there are many people out there who have tried different things, whether it be a coaching program, whether it be a new dance class, whether it be yoga, whether it be pole fitness. They went out and they tried something new, and it was a risk for them because of whatever things that they were going through, whatever thoughts they were having about themselves in that moment. And they took that risk, and maybe it didn't end up the way that they thought it was. Maybe they actually ended up not liking it, and that's okay. Maybe they ended up loving it and decided to become an instructor or decided to go ahead and teach dance or teach yoga. Whatever it is, oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. So taking that risk is always something that you want to do as long as you are willing to allow what is coming to you from that risk. Okay. Now, when it comes down to doing the work, one of the things that I talked about at the beginning of this is people not really wanting to change for whatever reason. And there are a few reasons why people are afraid of change. I talk to a lot of people on a consistent basis and talk to them not only about my transformation, but about change in general and how change is really just a part of our lives. And let's just be real, a lot of people avoid it for whatever reasons they have. And it's really interesting to me to always find people who are afraid of change or who don't want to change. And that really always makes me wonder, like, why is it that you don't want to change? Or why is it that you fear change? And one of the reasons is that they feel like they're going to lose everything. And when I say that lose everything, I mean, some people think they're going to lose their friendships, they're going to lose their jobs, they're going to lose their, house, whatever it is, like whatever that change that they believe that they have to make, they believe that they're going to lose everything. And the reality is you can't lose what you don't have. And I say that more so if you think about it in a possessive type of way. And I say that because when it comes down to changing, you're supposed to lose the old self, the self that is causing all of the issues, the self that has brought on all of the things that you are currently in fear of. That was the whole point of the change. So when you say that you're going to lose everything, what does that exactly look like? I want you to think about all of the physical things that you have in your possession, right? You have your house, you have your car, you have clothes, you have your job, things like that, right? And it's like, okay, what is the thing that you're going to change? In my particular situation, I just wanted to change the fact that I stopped drinking. I didn't realize that I was going to lose friends. I didn't realize that I was going to stop hanging around in certain circles. I didn't realize that that was going to be a thing. And it was mostly because when I was doing those things, when I saw myself doing those things, I was a different person, or those people were different people. And I was actually in that space having fun with them in that same space. We were all drinking, we were all having fun. But then I remember going out one time with friends and we were all sitting there. I wasn't drinking, of course. Everybody else was drinking. They were all having fun. And as I sat and I watched, I realized that a lot of the people were only having fun because they were drinking. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's something that I noticed. And I realized for myself that wasn't something that I wanted or needed because I have fun without, without drinking. And it was very interesting for me to sit back and watch everybody else in that environment and then realize how much out of that space I felt because of, the fact that I had stopped. So I slowly started going away from hanging out with those people. I stopped going to the places that they hung out. I stopped, going to parties that these people had. And even when it came down to me inviting people to parties or into game nights and things like that, I stopped inviting people who I knew were going to only be there for that reason and were probably only going to have fun if they were drinking. So I get the fact of feeling like things are going to be so different and you're going to lose everything. And in some way, in the way that I look at things, I realize that that is okay. It's okay to have to start over in a sense, with whatever it is that you are losing. So for me, in my sense, it was starting over with friends. So now it's like I have a different friend group. I have different people in my life who have a different set, like mindset. So I hang out with those people a lot more than I do with the other people that I used to hang out with in my life. It's the same thing when I decided that I was going to quit my job. I was going to be starting over in a completely new place with new people. And I had no idea where that was going to take me, but I took that risk because it was for my mindset, it was for my health that I decided to leave that place. And for me, it was hard, but it wasn't hard because I knew what I was looking for. I was looking for a better mentality because I was angry with the world. I was angry with everything that was going on in my life. And most of all, I was angry with myself. So being able to take those things out of my life that really caused that anger actually helped me. So what are you holding on to that you feel like will cause you to lose everything? I want you to think about what that everything is and if those things are meant for you, if they are actually making you happy in this moment. And I think that you'll find that in reality, when you start losing these things or when these things start to fall away, you're not really losing them. You're actually gaining something else for yourself. And I think that a lot of times we don't look at change in that way. The next thing that some people are afraid of when it comes to change is they feel like they can't change. I've had a lot of people who came to me and said, I couldn't stop drinking. I remember I was telling people I was going to Vegas with my friends for a girls' trip and in March. And that was like within the 90 days that I had stopped drinking. And there were a lot of people who were like, oh, I'd have to give up my drinking, not drinking for that month because it's Vegas. And I was just like, I mean, that's cool. Like that's you. And I know for me, it's not something that I have to do. And I think that what a lot of people didn't realize is that the last time that I went to Vegas, that's all I did. Don't get me wrong, I remember the trip. But I went for a conference. I want to say maybe like 5 years, 6 years before that. And actually I think it might have been longer. And I drank the entire time. I was out and about and I was doing everything except, really enjoying the space that I had with the people that I was with. And this was the one time where I was like, this is the one time where I need to redo my trip to Vegas. It had a lot of memories. There were a lot of things that happened when I went to Vegas the last time, like getting married. So I really had to change what that looked like for me. I had to change that experience for myself. So it was really interesting to hear that people, wanted to go down. They were just like, oh, well, I would definitely not be doing this challenge during that time. And I understood from their perspective why they couldn't. But for me, I was like, well, this is part of my change. Like I understand that you can't do it, but I can. So that's what I'm going to do. And I think that a lot of times when it comes down to not or thinking that they can't change is really the fact that maybe they've tried something before. Maybe they've tried change before, whatever that may look like, and it didn't work. For example, I have friends and family who used to smoke cigarettes, and some of them would stop, and then as soon as they got stressed out or something like that, they'd start smoking again. And I completely understand that. Like sometimes these things are used as coping mechanisms for you to get through a process. And that was the same thing when it came to my drinking. It really became a coping mechanism for me of how I dealt with everything. And one of the things that I realized for myself was that once I realized that it was a coping mechanism, and by the way, I didn't realize it was a coping mechanism until I stopped drinking. Once I realized it was a coping mechanism, I was like, oh, okay. Because in real life before, I didn't really want to change it. I was just like, this is me. This is what I'm doing. Like, this is how we're going to do things. I didn't want to change it. But then when I started realizing how unhappy I was and just how can I change things? I figured, well, drinking might be one way to stop. And then literally within 2 months, I was like, this is a coping mechanism because every time, even within the first few days of not drinking anymore, I started getting really angry and I started just being like, God, I just want to drink. Like, I just want to drink. That's all I want to do. And I realized after a couple of months, I was like, it's a coping mechanism. It's something that I do to mask and blind myself from the things that are really bothering me or not talk about them or whatever it is. Um, and that for me solidified the fact that I wanted to change. And I think that a lot of times we try different things in our lives and feel like they don't work because of whatever reason. Maybe we heard from somebody else it didn't work for them, or maybe we stopped smoking for a little while and we realized that that's just what we wanted to do. And again, that is okay. But it really comes down to what is it that you're looking for? What kind of fulfillment do you want in your life? And how are these changes going to help you get through that? And I think that a lot of times we don't think about what that looks like. And instead of changing a situation, they say, well, I can't change it because it's not something that, maybe they don't have control over it, or maybe they feel they don't have control over it. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to that, is understanding you have control of what you do. And at the end of the day, your actions are really what matters within your change. Okay. And then lastly, when it comes to why people are afraid of change, some people are just okay with the routine that they have. Like they're just like, yeah, like this is how it is, it's good. And that's sometimes when you see like people who are content with their lives and they're just like, yeah, I don't really have to do anything. I don't have to do a lot of anything. I don't really have to change anything. I think for myself, a lot of my life had been surrounded by change. It had been, I was always in a constant state of transformation and in a constant state of like flow. So for me, it was very difficult to always stay the same. Like I would get into this space where I was like, all right, this seems cool, but like I never really thought about, is this something that I want? Is this something that I want to continue because it's something that I feel like I came up with this idea, right? And when it comes down to like the routine of life, I mean, I think about some of my friends and family who are in their same positions as they were last year or the year before that or the year before that, or they continue to go through the same, things in life. And then you find that they're not really happy with what they're doing or how they're doing it, but they're just like, I really don't want to change it because things are steady, things are stable. And at the end of the day, I get it. Like, again, when you're working, when you are putting in the work to change, it sometimes can be a lot of work. It takes a lot of consistency. But if you're really looking for a new life, if you're looking for new happiness, if you're looking for new routines, you're going to have to make the change. And just like this quote says, the magic you are looking for is in the work you are avoiding. So stop avoiding the work that you have to do. So one of the things that when I was writing this and when I was getting my little outline together and I was looking over this, I was thinking about change and what that really looks like for people. And for those of you who have ever read Who Moved My Cheese, what it really comes down to is change can just happen, or you can go with the flow of the change. And that's really what Who Moved My Cheese is really about. It's really about these two little mice, and then it's about these two little people, and they are their names are Him and Haw, and then you have these two mice. And what they do is they all like live in this maze. And while they're in one part of the maze, there's like all this cheese. And during the day, you see that the mice go out and they don't come back until later on in the day. And Him and Haw, they like kind of just hang out and they're just like, yeah, this is cheese paradise. We got this. Things are going good. And then what ends up happening is that they start seeing that the cheese is starting to get old and some of it's starting to get moldy and some of it is actually starting to decrease. Their supply is starting to decrease. And they're like, what is going on? And eventually it gets to the point where they've been hungry for a couple of days. And one of the characters goes, well, I'm going to go and figure out like what's going on because the mice are gone. So we have to figure out what's happening and we have to change our habits. We have to change our routine. We have to go find cheese. And one of them is just like, no, I don't want to do that. So the other character leaves and he goes off and we don't see him again until the end and of the book. And basically he just sits there and eventually he's like, okay, this is too much. I need to go and I need to find more cheese. So he gets up and he goes out into the maze and starts to look for cheese. And as he goes into the maze, he starts to find different quotes and things about change and how that is supposed to help us move on as things around us start to change. And the whole premise of the book is basically stating how change is going to happen. Change is inevitable. No matter what it is that you're going through, it's going to change. If you think about, for those of you guys who remember, we used to have Blockbuster and Blockbuster Video, and Blockbuster was like our family video or in like video stores, Redbox, stuff like that in a physical form, right? And what would end up happening is as streaming services started to come about, Blockbuster Video started to die. So did Family Video and like all of these other places that had where you could go and rent DVDs and VHSs and stuff like that. And it's because they saw that, oh, there's change happening, but they never actually were like, yeah, let's go ahead and hop on this train and see how we can continue to build on that. And it really shows you that the growth of what that looks like. So even if anybody even remembers like the Britannica encyclopedias, how they used to have door-to-door salesmen go and sell the Britannicas, like the Britannica encyclopedias. And they were like 20, I think they were like 27 issues. And I say that because I think one of the issues was like, I think there were like a couple of issues, like a couple of the encyclopedias that were actually like larger sets. So they had like maybe 2 or 3 volumes. So maybe it was more than that. And as time started going on and they started seeing that things were changing regarding the book and the everything like that, they started to put it on CD. And then it became available online. Actually, I don't even know if encyclopedias even exist anymore. I could probably do a quick Google search and see if encyclopedias even exist anymore, because now you just have a plethora of information on the internet. And it's because of change. You think about what that actually looks like for each individual person, and for everybody, it can look different. But it really comes down to, do you want to be left behind or do you want to be ahead of the curve when it comes to change? And that's really what Who Moved My Cheese is about. So if you ever get a chance to actually read that, please do. And I might even be able to find a little video clip of like the movie, if you will, of the book and be able to put that into the description for you guys so that you guys can actually, for those of you guys who like don't really like, who don't like to read or don't have time to read, you can watch the little video, or you can also get it on audiobook, I'm sure. But either way, it's a really good book about change and what that looks like for people in general. And I think that that is always something that is, when it comes down to like life, that's something that people have to understand, is that change is going to happen with or without you. You just have to decide whether or not you're going to go with it or get left behind. So you should definitely make that decision as you're going through life. When it comes down to, even now for myself, when it comes down to the changes that I'm looking at, it's doing my podcast and, doing my workshop and what that looks like. And then I think about what that looks like in terms of using AI and how that can be helpful. And in reality, I'm kind of like Will Smith and iRobot, where I'm kind of just like, yeah, this is too much for me. I'm good with not having technology all up in my grill like that, right? But I also at the same time understand why it's there and how it can be used as a tool. And as soon as I get over that hiccup of, I don't have to allow it to take over my life or take over the things that I'm doing, then I can actually go ahead and be like, okay, let's go ahead and do this, and use it in the way that's going to help me transform, that's going to help me be more efficient, things like that. So I feel like a lot of times when it comes to change, even in my own life, like, yes, I wouldn't say mastered is not the right word, but I'll say that I have come to a point where I understand that change is going to happen regardless. And as it's happening, what I'm trying not to do is to be that person who's like not allowing it to happen. And as soon as I get to like, once I start to feel that way, like once I start to feel like I'm just in this space of I'm not allowing this to happen, that's when I start to actually go further in. That's when I start to dive in a little bit more, because I realize that that change is inevitable. It's going to happen regardless. But all I have to look at within that space is look at what I have control of and how I can make this change, a comfortable change for me. And I think that a lot of times when it comes down to it is change is not always going to be comfortable. That's just the reality of it. However, if we continue to sit back and look and think about the ways that we can also continue to go with that flow, it's going to be a lot less hard, a lot less stressful. We just have to find our space within that. Now, as we go back into our work for the week, one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to look at what are you working on right now that you are avoiding, or what work you are avoiding. I can tell you right now, one of the things that I'm going to talk about is there's a lot of house things that I am avoiding, because it seems very overwhelming. And over this last week, I will definitely say that I had to go to my boyfriend and be like, hey, like I need some kind words for this week, because I just am not feeling up to it, like up to anything. I feel like, this is falling apart. I don't feel like I have this together, whatever it may be. It's not a constant struggle, but on some days it is a struggle. And last week I had a couple of those days. And while I was within those days, I realized that some of the things that I'm not working on right now, or some of the things that I'm avoiding, is like getting rid of stuff in my house, in my basement, in my garage. So one of the things that I was going to brag about today is the fact that I got rid of some of those energy leaks, which was really great for me because I felt so much better getting rid of that stuff. So what I did was I went back, and I think I spoke about this in another podcast episode where I was talking about clearing energy leaks. I think it might have been last week. And it was basically just being on this, being aware of the things that I really have to take care of in my life. And for me, a lot of that had to do with getting rid of clutter and debris and things that just don't belong anymore. And one of those things, what I decided to do on Friday was I decided that I was going to figure out what rooms in my house needed to be cleared. And so what I did was like, okay, I know that the first thing that needs to get started on is my garage. So I went ahead and was like, okay, so it's going to be the garage, then it's going to be the basement, then it's going to be the kitchen, because I was thinking about as I walk into my house, I go into my garage first. My garage is attached to my house. So then I go into my house, I'll go down in the basement, I'll come upstairs, go into the kitchen because the kitchen's right there. Then that will lead to the den, the dining room, the living room, and then upstairs. So I was like, all right, well, what needs to be done in the garage first? And I basically had all of these things in my garage just sitting there. It was quite ridiculous, actually. Um, and it was just a lot of stuff. It was like I had flower pots on the porch that I needed to get rid of, and like all of the debris and things like that within the pots, because now that the weather's cold, the plants have died in there. So I was like, well, let's go ahead and like start over basically. So I went ahead, I dumped those and I rinsed them out and I put them in my garage. But then I had camping stuff in the garage. I had tools, I had just a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, all right, what else do I need to do? Like, where does this stuff need to go? And I was like, oh, probably needs to go in the shed. But I also needed to clean the shed, which, by the way, hasn't been cleaned since I got here. I've lived in my house for 7 years and I have not cleaned that shed, not one lick, like at all. So I asked my boyfriend, I said, hey, like, can we clean this out tomorrow? And he was like, yeah. So we woke up Saturday morning. We went outside, and that's the first thing that we did. We put on some clothes. We went out to the shed and we took everything out. We swept it. We got rid of the cobwebs. There actually, this is probably going to be really gross, guys, but there was a little flower pot filled. It wasn't filled. It like the bottom was lined with little mice. I have no idea where they came from, but they were all dead. So it was lined with dead mice. I threw that away. But we went through everything that was in the garage, and I even found some things that were like I didn't even know that I had. Like there's like not a gazebo, but like one of those tents that you put up over if you're like having an event or something like that, or just like, to keep the sun out. I have one of those in my garage or in my shed, and I had no idea that I had it there because it was just there. Like my neighbor or my neighbors, the people I bought the house from just left it there. So it's literally been in there for 7 years and I've never once used it. Not even once. But we cleaned out the shed. We got all the stuff out of the shed. We swept it up. I made sure that I got all the cobwebs out of there as much as I could. Because let's just be real, the spiders were living in there. And I went ahead and he helped me like Tetris some things like into the garage or into the shed. And then we took the stuff from the garage and put the tools that were in there and some of the other stuff into the shed. And now the shed is clean, it's organized, and it's all set for the summer. Well, then in the garage, we went ahead and moved some stuff around in there too, because there were like, I have a lot of like camping chairs and things like that. So we went ahead and got all of that stuff together, put that where it's supposed to be. And it was just really, really nice to get all of that stuff put away and into a place. So that was one energy leak that I got to get rid of this weekend. And I guess technically it would be two, because I also did clean my basement as well. When the people came to redo my basement or came to waterproof my basement, they said that because of the fact that they had to put new concrete down, there's a lot of some things that I can't do, like put stuff on top of the spaces where the concrete was until it dries completely, which is completely understandable. So, but I still have like everything was still pushed into the middle of the basement, and it was really annoying my life. Like it was super duper annoying my life. And I was just like, I have to get to this too. So after I did the garage, I came downstairs and I packed up everything in the basement and I got rid of everything that I could that needed to go down there. I put that stuff in trash bags and that stuff is ready to go and be put out on the curb. And I honestly am just so proud of myself about getting that together because it had literally been bothering me. And now, of course, going into this next week, which is, of course, you guys will be hearing this on Tuesday, which will be election day. But my birthday is on Thursday. So I want to make sure that I don't have to do anything. I want to make sure that my boyfriend doesn't have to do anything cleaning wise and putting things away while we are celebrating my birthday. So I guess Monday and Tuesday will be my days to actually get everything together and get ready for guests and things like that. But I'm just super proud of myself that I was able to get rid of that energy leak because it really was bothering me. And now both of our cars fit comfortably in the garage. And I think that's important. Super duper important. One of the things that I am grateful for, especially today, as I'm recording this, because today is Sunday, is I'm really grateful for lazy Sundays. Today, I got a chance to just sit and hang out and be great. And at the end of it all, I was like, well, let's go ahead and record my podcast because I feel like that's important. I have, this podcast coming up on Tuesday. So I was like, let's go ahead and record this. And then within this also, I'm going to be getting together a couple of more podcasts to kind of get a little backlog going so that I'm not all like, I don't feel like the last minute I'm recording content for you guys because that's not fun. So today was definitely a lazy Sunday. So I'm excited that I'm very grateful for days like this where I can just relax and hang out and not just with myself, but with my cats and with my boyfriend and just be able to be. Last but not least, would be for the desire. And in all honesty, I think for this one, it's just I'm excited for the self-care that I am about to receive. And I say that because not only did my boyfriend decide that he's going to plan some things, but we also have like a game night coming up. So that's going to be my community self-care. I have another party set up for the Wednesday, the night before my birthday. And that's also going to be community self-care. I have scheduled us to do a float tank on Veterans Day. And I'm excited about that. This will be my second deprivation float tank. And he's never been to one before, but I'm excited because that's going to be that spiritual, physical aspect of the self-care. And again, as I tell you guys in the self-care series, which you can go back and listen to, you have to plan this stuff. You have to sit back and really put into your calendar what that looks like. Like, it's not just enough to say, okay, I'm going to put a bath on the calendar. And then it gets to that day and you're like, oh, a bath. Like, I get it. I did the same thing last week. I actually had to I was like, I have to clean the tub. I have to figure out this. I have the little tub stoppers that I have are just finicky. So I had to figure that out. And it was like a lot of steps to that. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that I went and actually sat in the tub for I think I was in there for 45 minutes. But it's worth planning that stuff. It's worth actually keeping that commitment to yourself. And again, when it comes to change, when it comes to growth, when it comes to transformation, it's all about trusting yourself. It's about trusting your intuition. It's about trusting who you are and what you want in your life and being able to move forward with those things. So I hope that you found some help and some good points within this podcast episode. If you did, please share it with a friend. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm excited that we're still going strong with the podcast. We're on, I believe this is episode 23. So things are really, really moving along when it comes down to the podcast itself. So I'm super excited. And I just hope that each week I can bring you guys something new and something for you guys to look forward to as you're going on your journey. If there's anything that you'd like to hear, please let me know, whether it be in the comments of this podcast or whether it be by text message to, let me know what it is that you guys want to hear. Without further ado, I hope that you guys have a great rest of the week. Please go out and vote. Today is the final day, as it is election day today. So go vote. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. Plan your self-care, and I will see you here next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in to Dear Tay, You Got This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, join our mailing list, and share it with someone ready for transformation. Stay connected with us on TikTok at Phoenix of Change, and catch our episodes on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, one new habit is all you need to seek growth and transformation in your life. What will your new habit be? A big thank you to our amazing listeners and to Chakra Wonders for their support. Until next time, keep evolving and embracing change.